With breaking news and political commentary from a public servant, serial entrepreneur, community leader, philanthropist, and American patriot, and a darn nice guy. It's time for the Grassroots Truthcast and your host, Gene Valentino.
Hi, friends, and welcome back for another episode of the Grassroots Truthcast. We were so excited with the last episode we did with Dr. Paul Alexander. I just had to bring him back on. We talked about so many things in his last episode, in and around Donald Trump, in and around COVID, the circumstances in his political and professional experiences working in Washington, D.C., in Bethesda, and he's on a mission today, having just returned back from Israel. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. But today's focus for 15 minutes or so is to talk about the wellness company of which Dr. Alexander is a senior advisor and member of the leadership team. And what an interesting group of people, including Dr. Peter McCullough and others that Dr. Alexander can refer to in a minute. Tell you what, hello, Dr. Alexander. Thank you for joining us. But before we come to you, let's break away and watch this promotional video by the Wellness Company. It'll run about 2 minutes, and then we'll come right back. Don't go away.
I remember the first meeting that I had with our chief medical team, and I said to them, life comes down, you're going to be judged by the choices that you make. And when the choice to start this company came up, it was a no-brainer, because we all need to fight for what we believe in, and we need to strive for something.
I'm Dr. Heather Gessling. I'm a family medicine physician. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the medical team at the Wellness Company. We strive to base all of our decisions on science, and the lack of unbiased science in the last 2 years is one of the catalysts that has brought about the Wellness Company.
My role in the Wellness Company is going to be largely one of education and re-education of our physician corps, who are going to be administering medicine to large numbers of people, we hope, under our guidance. Okay, we are not going to be telling them how to practice, but we are going to be telling them how to approach the patient in a different way. And that way involves returning to the first principles of medicine, which are the basic sciences.
Myself and the Wellness Company rely on data, scientific data, to drive critical decisions. But importantly, we must consider all available sources of data. Everything's on the table. Nutrition is basically what we put in our bodies, and you can imagine what we put in our bodies really matters. And nutrition science is going to play a giant role in the data-driven decisions and treatment plans that we devise at the Wellness Company.
So I'm Dr. Jen Vandewater. I'm a doctor of pharmacy. I graduated pharmacy college in 2006. I worked mostly for retail pharmacies, and through the years I noticed that it became very robotic. The pharmacy industry was no longer about patient care, and it became more fill prescriptions, give shots, anything you could do just to keep busy. There was no time for patient interaction and patient well-being. But while I was there, I was still seeing that people were on lots and lots and lots of medications. So as I was watching doctors prescribe more and more, I thought, well, how can I assist and help the patient realize they may be on too many medications?
Current medical practice is so completely off the rails that it almost has to be destroyed and rebuilt from the ground up, because we have allowed ourselves to be taken over by pharma for the most part. Most doctors just prescribe, they treat numbers as opposed to patients. They don't reverse disease, they maintain chronic disease. This is all wrong. Our approach is wrong. Our approach to these diseases is wrong. It is all based on giving a pill to treat a number. That is what modern medicine has become. We are not treating patients, we are treating numbers.
It's always been said that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if we can prevent an illness, we can prevent suffering, potentially hospitalization, progression of disease, and death. So prevention is absolutely critical.
I see creating an integrated healthcare system that focuses on prevention versus being reactive. I see a company that's going to continue to have amazing products and put third-party products on our store and in our platform that are vetted by some of the best physicians in the world.
What makes the wellness company's approach unique is that we're coming at different angles. We're not just coming into one area of health, we're coming into education. We're coming into training even providers on what health actually looks like. We've been kind of confused and misguided through the years, so the wellness company is hitting it in a way that nobody else has hit it before.
We have to go back to treating patients and getting them healthy again and maintaining that state of good health.
I truly am inspired to leave the world a better place than I came in. I want to create that change. I want to help people.
Grow in what you know about your health. Your health is yours. You own your body. We want to just guide you in that so that you can make the right decisions for your health. And I'm excited to tell you that we're here and we're bringing you the best.
Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed the video from the Wellness Company. What a great group of people who are really believing in what medicine should be all about, and that's preventative care as opposed to reactionary care. Welcome, Dr. Alexander. There's a lot to talk about. Explain your role with the Wellness Company and why it's such a good remedy for COVID and COVID-related illnesses.
Well, Gene, thanks very much for having me again. And well, I mean, you know my background in evidence-based medicine. I speak as an academic scientist, an expert in research methodology. I worked prior for both the World Health Organization, and then I was tasked by the Trump administration to provide expert scientific support as a COVID pandemic advisor. The thing about it is that I'm working at the wellness. When I say working, we are providing technical scientific support and guidance to the wellness's leadership, which is Mr. Foster Coulson. He is the CEO and owner of the company, originally out of British Columbia, but has broad reach now within the United States. And he reached out to people like myself, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Reish, Dr. Roger Hodkinson, Dr. James Torp, Dr. William Mackis, Dr. Julie Punes, these people, because he, with his own experiences with COVID, and he had his own companies already in existence, he wanted to get into, he saw the gaps and the dirt in healthcare in the United States, having a presence from a business point of view in the United States and I suppose living, as well as in Canada, to bridge the gap in the lack of proper healthcare, particularly from your clinical practitioner or when you go into the hospital, etc., your first experience there. So his view was that, especially in the advent of COVID, over what we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years, where they closed all hospitals. If you remember when we locked down in the middle of March 2020, you couldn't even go into a hospital. There were people with, and we know when we look at the data today in the excess mortality, the all-cause mortality, we could see now why the mortality has gone up so much. It's because a lot of people back then who went to hospital or went to their doctor, their clinic, found that the hospitals, the beds were designated only COVID beds. You were told go home, and at some point in the future, you'll be able to come back to the hospital. Right now, we're just dealing with COVID. So many people had chest pains. They had the beginnings of their own cardiovascular illness, different forms of cancer, different forms of renal disease, diabetes, all sorts of stuff, and they could not get any care. So they progressed along the disease sequelae, and many of them over the last 2 to 3 years, last year, have begun to die because they're trying now to access healthcare, and they're so far along the disease sequelae, they're so ill that they're succumbing. So people like Foster figured out, we need to come to the table and get people some kind of care more immediately. So he moved towards this model of telehealth medicine, where he partnered with a group of doctors who could provide telemedicine health, where you can call in and what we call a second opinion, or for some people just straight to that service as their health care. Also, he got into the manufacturing of nutraceutical supplements with some unique formulas to provide Americans, whomever. Right now, they're working with the legal processes in Canada to mainstream the wellness company there. So going through, the government and whatever they need to do to make things legal and status quo. So they're a company that is focused on trying to get you to own your own freedom again. So in other words, working with the doctors, working with us, people like me, McCullough, etc., we write a lot of pamphlets and a lot of guidance that they put out to the members, informing them about, the data, the science, things around COVID, things around healthier living on the whole. And
yeah, but doctor, you've also done even more. You've not only captured the data, and what I like about the wellness company is that it's evidence-based, it's data-based in its approach to remediation, to cures. One of the things I like about the wellness company is that it's got its own kit that is being used to address COVID. This term I've seen you write about, this porn, this fear porn, this mass formation psychosis that Dr. Malone referred to, this fear that is there no small coincidence and an election is coming and they've got to put this fear in you again. They've got to get you to think about vaccines every 5 minutes and masks on top of masks and all this insanity about locking up in your home again. And over on the sidelines is this wonderful company called the Wellness Company that says, look, evidence-based, here's the way we treat the virus. Be careful what you're taking that is still unproven. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I like how you explain that, and the reality about it is that today we're in December of 2023, and it has been this way for like 2 years now. COVID is basically done. I mean, look, it has many facets to this discussion. It'll take us weeks to even talk about exactly what was released. We know something was released at some point in the past that caused respiratory-like symptoms to particularly high-risk vulnerable people, example, our elderly, because they were, quote unquote, to this pathogen, let's accept that it was a coronavirus, manufactured in a laboratory somewhere. The elderly, the high-risk persons, 80, 85 years old with 2 to 3 underlying medical conditions, were the low-hanging fruit. And this pathogen killed them. And we can't deny that the high-risk elderly were victims because we didn't protect them. People like myself, Bhattacharya, Kuldorf, Sunitra Gupta, Scott Atlas, McCullough, out of the gate, Rish, Osqui, we were telling the world, look, all you needed to do was no lockdown, stop this lockdown that even the Trump administration had implemented because he was being badly misguided and deceived by Fauci and Bush. We're saying end it. Open society in full, open schools, open business. Just strongly protect the elderly in your society. Take the necessary steps to protect them. But let the rest of society live normally and naturally. Because if you fail to protect the elderly, which is what we did, yet lock down the healthy, which is what we did it in reverse. We were supposed to protect the vulnerable, seclude them in some manner, not in a nefarious, terrible way, in a humane way, yet let the rest of society live. It's the rest of society, it's the rest of the low-risk, healthy society that live normally, live day-to-day, naturally and harmlessly, exposed to pathogen. Gene, you're sitting down in your studio. I'm sitting down here. I'm in transit somewhere. I'm in a hotel room. We are exposed to viruses right now. You, in that room you're sitting, there's bacteria, viruses, fungi, all sorts of stuff you are inhaling. You have an existing immune system. Your immune system is handling each and everything you're exposed to. If you get ill in the next hours or day or 2 days from now and you get a stomach bug, you run a little fever, it's because one of those things you're exposed to now broke through a little bit and gave you little symptoms, but your immune system too will deal with it. May take a day or two, and you will recover. That's when
that's
you
true.
get cold or sick. That's how it works. So we want you and me and everybody else who are generally healthy to live normal lives. Look, you're giving your interview. You're exposed to people today. You're going in your car. You are going to be exposed, and your immune system is going to deal with it. The older you get, you go through immune system isn't working as much, or even some none. You might be immunocompromised. Well, that's when you need a little help, and that's when you need to protect those people. Those are the people I mean. You protect them, but you let everybody else live normal. We get exposed. Our immune system develops an immune response. We develop that protective immunity. And then we are the ones who turn around our immune systems and protect the vulnerable. The vulnerable cannot be exposed, or in most cases cannot even take a vaccine for the pathogen. We need to use our immune systems to protect them. How do we do that? We need to be exposed to the pathogen, so our immune systems can develop the immunity.
Builds up its
and
own
be
defense.
The wall. Correct. And be the wall. That's where we get to what we call
Ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. I never took a vaccine, but I'll tell you, I took both of those. I took vitamin D. I took azithromycin. And yes, I had COVID. It was with me for a week. I felt better after 3 or 4 days. That's it. 2 years ago. Never returned.
Yes.
And
yes,
I don't know. I mean, the real sad story to me, and you and I have a political background. We also have great political allies. And I'd love to talk more on the political side, but it's all in the recent issues we're seeing in the news about how the Colorado Supreme Court tried to stick it to Donald Trump again. These are all stories for another day, but these stories, Doctor, sit against a backdrop of a common theme, and that's the annihilation by the deep state of a society that's worked for over 250 years, called a constitutional republic sitting within a democracy. And Big Pharma has become an instrument of capitalism and money. And I don't see anybody doing anything about wellness and preventative measures the way the wellness company is. There's so much to talk about to light me up, but I would like you to just throw a plug in on the wellness company. What's in that wellness kit?
Well, the wellness company is saying that what these demons are doing is they're trying to take away, and they have your freedom, your individual decision making as to what you want to do with your body, which doctors you want to attend to, what you would like, and your decision making. That's the key of the wellness company, to get you to feel the best you could feel every day. Put those decision making steps in your hands so you could have peace of mind, and you could get back to that pre-COVID feeling. Medicine that your doctors, older doctors, previous doctors wouldn't even tell you about. Wellness company doctors are armed with more modern options, particularly nutraceuticals, a healthier living, information, documents, evidence showing you what is important. I mean, we have a serious issue in the West, in America, in Canada, in UK, etc., with what we call metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is the biggest medical problem we face. But we don't need this medical bureaucracy and this kleptocracy, I call it, destroying us any further. This co-pays and all this insurance driven in the metabolic disorder, which is what the wellness company is trying to address, is a situation where many males and females in our society now, including our younger people, teens and children, they have, which is, for men, is an elevated waist size, over 42 or so, elevated blood pressure, elevated sugar, and elevated cholesterol. Those 4 general risk factors. For women, it's the same, waist size above like 38. When you have those 4 together, you have what we call metabolic syndrome. And the reality is that you need information to help you make some other decisions as to, well, how you're going to address metabolic syndrome? Do you want to go on multiple medical drugs for the rest of your life? Do you want to develop end-stage heart disease, etc.? So the wellness company with McCullough and Reish and all these people, we are trying to arm people with information as to how to make healthier lifestyle decisions, nutritional decisions, etc., to help you get that weight down, make decisions about nutraceuticals that you could take to support you, the immune system. And look, we could talk on and on because they have this. You could find the wellness company at twc.health. That's T as in Tom, W as in white, C as in Charlie, .health. We have a really good formula called the spike recovery formula, which with a natural blood anti-clotting
You called
ingredient.
You called it the spike recovery formula.
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, the spike protein is a toxic part of the virus. Yeah. It's what allows the virus to gain entry into your cells. I mean, you have the spike protein and even influenza, other types of like coronavirus, cold coronaviruses, etc. It allows the virus to interface with molecular receptors on the surface of your cells and infect you. That's the short of it. This formula, what we found is when you take the vaccine, despite the mRNA vaccine particularly, the spike protein is produced. That's the basis for your immune response. That's how it should have worked. We found that the spike protein itself, vaccine-induced, is causing long-term COVID symptoms and in many people death. So the key is people are coming up to me, coming up to McCullough or Reish after we give a speech, come off a stage or something and say, Dr. Alexander, Dr. McCullough, etc., how do we get this spike out of us? I got the virus and I have spike protein in me still. Why? Because we have the studies that show us that the spike protein persists long-term. We were told by the CDC, by the FDA, and by the vaccine makers that the spike protein itself dissolves after a one-off or a day or so. That was a lie. We have studies by people like Rolke and et al. And Cell Patterson shows us that spike protein persists for 2 years post-virus or vaccine. So we need to get that spike protein out of us, especially if you got the vaccine. The spike recovery formula from the wellness company has nattokinase. Nattokinase is a natural enzyme from the soy-based enzyme from the soy tree system that dissolves the spike. We have preliminary research that shows us that the nattokinase busts up the spike protein so that it cannot do the damage. And the reality is we don't have the final confirmatory randomized control trials yet. But until then, we have preliminary observational studies and anecdotal evidence from the clinical evidence telling us from people who are using it that it actually has made a difference and it is reducing the risk of blood clots and bleeding post-vaccine, etc. And so the wellness company has created these formulas with people like McCullough, Reish, toxicologists, pharmacologists, to create these formulas for people. Again, the site is twc.health. But you asked about the emergency kit, and I'm happy you did. What this is that when we were in the throes of the pandemic, so the wellness company designed this kit. It's called a medical emergency kit. It has 8 drugs, prescription drugs in it. We're also bringing out a COVID kit and a traveler's kit if you're going to travel to one of those countries with malaria and all of these issues. That is a traveler's kit you could purchase. But right now, the emergency kit is one of the most popular entities that the wellness company promotes. And it has these 8 drugs in them. And why? Why these 8 drugs? And also a book giving you guidance on the dosings and what about 20 to 30 illnesses. It's not for COVID. COVID is just one of the illnesses. It covers a broad range of illnesses, broad range. And why? Because at the height of COVID, I experienced it. I imagine you did. Everybody did. We couldn't even get ivermectin. The kit contains ivermectin. We couldn't get antibiotics like doxycycline, azithromycin, nothing, because doctors were told by the medical boards and the crooked, corrupt governments in Canada, in the US, that you can't prescribe that to people, even though we had the evidence that they were working in advanced end-stage COVID even.
Wait a minute,
So now
you couldn't prescribe it.
you couldn't even prescribe it, yet alone the pharmacies wouldn't stock it. And you would go to a pharmacy and say, we don't have, we ran out, etc. So the wellness company came up with a kit so that if they continue on with this pandemic fraud, because this pandemic was really never a pandemic, this COVID pandemic is a non-pandemic, really, when you look at it. But if they continue and if they bring another, because they're still doing gain of function, research in the lab, if something else gets loose, etc., and for a range of other conditions, you could have your own kit in your own medicine chest at home, made up of a host of drugs that normally it would be problematic for you to get, like amoxicillin, azithromycin, doxycycline, metronidazole, ivermectin, fluconazole. There's an emergency, there's a medication guidebook as to how to use these drugs. Normally what you do is, when you do the subscription, you call in, it allows you to speak to a doctor one-on-one. Once that happens, a valid legal prescription is issued that allows you then to be able to take out this emergency kit.
So
and
a
you
doctor,
can have it
a doctor is actually prescribing this emergency kit for you.
Yes, these are prescription drugs, so it has to be. It has
Yeah.
to be done through a medical doctor. And here's the key. These drugs are not just for COVID, because ivermectin is in there. Doxycycline is there, which is part of the early treatment model. But this range of drugs, if you look at them, each covers anthrax, possible anthrax poisoning, bacterial vaginosis, bite wounds, bronchitis, chlamydia, gonorrhea, lice, pharyngitis, pinworms, pneumonia, scabies, shigella, sinusitis, strep throat even, syphilis, tetanus, tonsillitis, traveler's diarrhea, tularemia, urinary tract infection, a bunch of different conditions. So in other words, if you had a condition, you went to the doctor and the doctor said, well, you went to your family doctor, doctor gave you a prescription to get medications for vaginal candidiasis or syphilis or lice or pharyngitis or scabies or something. You would have this already in your medicine chest at home. And this is the key. So Foster Coulson and the wellness decided, you know what, let's get into the game also. Because you see, people say, oh, well, these people, they want to make money. No, I'm part of the system, and I could tell you, you have to read the wellness company's website to see the range of benevolence and the different community programs and support that they, when there was this train derailment recently, I forgot the location in the United States. It was in the news for a long time, for months, and I think they're still trying to do cleanup. The wellness company, Foster, they made a decision to help in some way, in some sort of financial way, with these medications and with this support system. I believe they were offering doctor visits, telehealth to the actual people who were affected by the train derailment. I think they spilled some toxic stuff, and it was a big story. You probably even covered it in the past. So that's what I'm saying. It's a company that got into the COVID game, because I suppose Foster and they were directly impacted, may have lost people have gotten ill in their own families and friends, and say, you know what, I am in a position, I could do something. And he wanted to, so, you know, he talked to McCullough, he talked to Rishi, talked to myself, say, look, I want to form this company to provide expertise to the public, give the public an option. They can't go to their doctor because doctor's not seeing anyone. Most doctors are not even taking new patients. So this is an option for people to get care that they would not have ordinarily gotten. And
What
more
I find,
importantly,
yes,
sorry.
I'm sorry. What I find
You
interesting,
go ahead.
yes, I was just going to say, what I find interesting is that here in the United States, what is required to be prescribed in this wellness kit is over the counter in many nations in the world. And it's turned out that the propensity of the COVID deaths from prescriptions, remdesivir and some of these other Pfizer, Moderna drugs, J&J and the rest of the family, didn't help the victim. It actually, in many cases, they died. It didn't help.
Yeah.
It didn't help the people in the nursing homes or assisted
Well,
living when the Governor Como brings infected people back into the nursing homes or assisted living facilities of the state of New York, for example. And now everyone's dying. Now, wait a minute. We're prescribing a drug that has been fast tracked to provide a solution, getting past some of what I would call the efficacy of clinical trials. And now we're in a situation where there's a question as to whether those drugs are real, and the hydroxychloroquine, the ivermectin, and the other drugs that are in this wellness kit have proven to be a solution elsewhere in the world that have not been allowed to be freely trading over the counter here in the United States. What am I missing?
well, the reality about it, Gene, is the way you describe it is actually the way it is. And the thing is, we never said when we formulated, because it's Dr. Zelenko, Dr. McCullough, myself, Dr. Risch, Dr. Ladapo, etc., Dr. Osqui, we wrote the paper on the early treatment algorithm. So that early treatment with antivirals, corticosteroids, antiplatelet, anti-clotting drugs, we wrote that. McCullough or me share first authorship in several of these papers. Dr. Zelenko is a senior scientist. We never said one drug. That's the key. We said we are putting together an algorithm where drugs, medications that are already available, they're already safe because the FDA, etc., Health Canada and Canada have made these available to the public for existing conditions. We are going to repurpose them because they exist, they're safe, they're effective, known to be effective, very safe, not cost prohibitive, so cheap and available. We are saying those that show a signal of benefit, no one drug. Remember, the early treatment model was combined multi-drug approach
That's
that we
right.
are throwing antivirals like hydroxy, etc., combined with antibiotics like doxycycline and azithromycin, combined with corticosteroid, depending on the phase of the illness you are, combined with antiplatelet drugs like heparin, etc., enoxaparin, high-dose aspirin, etc. Because COVID had these three distinct phases: the early phase, the hyper-inflammatory immune response phase, and then end-stage severe COVID is blood clotting. Because we learned that COVID was less of a respiratory illness at the end than a blood clotting illness. What killed most people is blood clots that needed to be dissolved, etc. That's why the spike recovery formula is so important, because it has nattokinase, which is a natural blood thinner. You can walk into the pharmacy and buy nattokinase on your own, or bromelain, etc., on your own. You don't need the wellness company, but the wellness company has put it together in one formula called the spike recovery. And it thins out the clots, it thins out the spike protein also. So this is the issue. And you need to, your listener needs to understand something. The emergency kit is so important today in case you get, like for unprepared, unpredictable moments that happens, things that happen. But I want to remind the public something. 50,000 foot level, 50,000. Today, 4 years in, my view, bringing everything to the table. I believe many years ago, not in January, February 2020, when we began lockdowns and they said this coronavirus thing, I believe several years before that, something was circulating that was ginned up in a lab, combination of the United States and China and other countries were playing around with these coronaviruses from the bat caves in China. I believe the United States government, as a battlefield weapon, had some interest in this. And I would even say today that they would have been remiss and wrong to not. Because if other countries like India, Soviet Union, China, etc., were engaging in biological weapons research, the United States military would have had to know about it too. So that if you use those weapons on the United States population or troops, we would have some means to understand it and to respond. So I would never say that, well, why we didn't get involved in biological weapons research. The problem here is that it was done dark, and it was done in a nefarious manner, and they had a lot of shady, seedy people like the barracks of this world, the Dazaks and all of them, and the way Fauci and Francis Collins and they went about the funding. I believe something was released, got loose, intentional or by accident, but it got loose. And I believe the vast majority of the population of this world years ago became immune to this. I do believe that. I do believe that it was always circulating, always. And I believe it was captured as common colds, influenza, in elderly who died here and there in America or across the world. I do believe. And the Diamond Princess cruise ship showed us that. Because the Diamond Princess in January, February of 2020 had an outbreak of the initial Wuhan legacy strain, the most lethal form. And we kept that ship out in the water, quarantine. And of 3,700 people on that ship, passengers and crew, only 7 or 8 died, which is almost a 0% mortality. The median age of people was around 70. This was not a ship of young people. These were older persons, many of them had underlying medical conditions. Yet the virus burnt itself out at 19 to 20%.
Okay, so the virus did obviously create a pandemic of its own on the ship, but what you're saying is
it burnt itself
they were
out
isolated from the rest of us.
Correct. The Diamond Princess was our petri dish, and the rest of it, we covered it up and we pretended it didn't exist. But that, if you go back to the Diamond Princess or the Theodore Roosevelt, you will get everything you need to know about what COVID was doing in January of 2020, and it showed you we needed no lockdowns or anything. Because why? Of a ship of 3,700 people sealed off, they were dropping food from helicopters onto the helipads because they wouldn't land on the ship. So nobody was getting on or off. So it was sealed. That virus should have ran 100%. Yet at 19% of the entire ship got infected, that's it. And it stopped. And we actually see this 19 to 20% popping up in many different places in the world and settings. It seems that the virus runs itself out at about 20%. Put that aside for now. What did we see in the ship? We saw this was Wuhan legacy, the first real strain that we were exposed to. This was the most lethal one because everything up to today with the EG5, BA2.86 subvariants, HV.1, all of these are so mild. They're 1/10 of a cold. They don't cause no problems because it has done what it has to do, which is it mutates. It evolves into a very mild infectious version. The viruses never want to kill you because if it kills you, it runs into an evolutionary dead end. It cannot propagate itself. Virus wants to infect you. So it's becoming more infectious, but vastly less lethal as it moves along with mutations because it doesn't want you to die. So what did we see on the Wuhan strain in that ship? Initial strain. Most lethal. We saw just 7 or 8 people died. Elderly people with medical conditions. More importantly, we saw it burnt out at 20%. What does that mean? That means that 80% of that ship, on that ship in January 2020, had seen that virus, this virus in some capacity, the immune systems, via cross-reactivity, cross-protection. It did. But more importantly, we had instances of husbands and wives secluded in the cabins because everybody was locked down on the ship.
Yeah.
The ship was quarantined. Yeah. Everybody was secluded in the cabins. We had husbands and wives, elderly, where the husband, as an example, got hot infection, Wuhan legacy strain, hot COVID, and he died, sadly. But the wife didn't even get infected and didn't die. How could you have 2 people with initial Wuhan legacy in roughly a 10 by 10 cabin, and one of them got so much virus and such lethal virus that they died, and the other person who was also high risk because older didn't even get infected. It meant that her immune system saw it. So there's a lot we're going to learn about COVID historically that is completely opposite to what we learned today. But what I'm trying to say is this thing, this pathogen, this virus, this whatever you want to call it, caused influenza-like illnesses in high-risk elderly people. Granted, and it killed some. But the vast majority of people died not because of the virus. The vast majority of people died because of the denial of treatment initially when all hospitals were closed. So your initial angina.
The denial of treatment with products like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. The other treatment they got could have accelerated their death, not prevented it. Is that you're the medical guy, I'm the marketing guy. We're talking with Dr. Paul Elias Alexander. He's an epidemiologist, and he's given us a deep dive on this whole COVID issue, which watch out for the fear porn, folks, this threat that you're going to see pop up between now and the next 2024 election, where they're going to try to isolate you, mask you, and get you on some new concoction. The only concoction I know that works is the ivermectin, the hydroxychloroquine. The wellness company, which Dr. Alexander serves with, is www.twc.health, right, doctor?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
folks,
yes.
you got to go there. I'm the marketing guy. Please let me put a plug in. You got to get your wellness kit or contagion kit. These two kits are designed to be your emergency supply that should stay in your home until needed.
Yes.
And doctor, how else can they get it? And what else should they know about what they're getting?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is wellness company has a range of products. It's not just a spike recovery product. You have products for healthy heart. You have products for diabetes, sugar control, etc. So, in becoming a member of the wellness company, so to speak, you are getting access to top doctors who could give you a second opinion as to your clinical issue, who could give you guidance. You're getting a lot of medical information, pamphlets. You're getting access to be able to get exemption letters, etc. You're getting nutraceuticals on a monthly basis. The spike recovery, the healthy heart formulas are what people go after a lot because the virus itself, this is what you need to understand. The virus itself, if you recover, the spike protein from the virus persists in your cells and tissues and blood, and it's causing long-term symptoms, what we call long COVID. And what we find is that if you took the vaccine, so whether you had the virus or not before, if you took the vaccine, the spike produced from the vaccine is causing even more debilitating symptoms. So we need some way for people to get by and to dissolve the spike protein, because we were told, this is the key, we were told by the CDC and the FDA at the beginning of this quote-unquote non-pandemic that when they were bringing the vaccine, we were told several lies. We were told that there's no reverse transcription where the messenger RNA could get back into your DNA and alter the genetic material of you. That turns out to be a lie. We know today it can be reverse transcribed. That's a devastating development, and we need hearings, we need investigations on that. We were told it can be transmitted in breast milk or placenta. Now we know, we have the study showing that the spike protein, the vaccine itself, the antibodies, the mRNA, fragments of the spike, the lipid nanoparticles, all of it can transgress the breast milk and the placenta. So from mother to baby in utero to newborn. That's a serious, serious complication because if the adult has medical side effects from the vaccine, guaranteed the infant is going to have. We were told that the vaccine, when you get it in your deltoid, the FDA and CDC and Health Canada told us, you put, and Fauci and you put the vaccine in the arm and the vaccine stays here, right here, moves a little bit to the local lymph drainage nodes, produces the immunological response, blah, blah, blah. That was a lie. We have studies from the Japanese biodistribution study. We have a lot of evidence now to show that the vaccine itself not just goes to the lymph drainage nodes, it enters the systemic circulation. That means it goes all over your body. And we find a spike in mRNA in the adrenals, in the testes of men, the testicles, affecting sperm, motility, fertility. We're finding it in the ovaries. We're finding it in the adrenal glands. We find it in the spleen, in the lungs, the liver. We're finding it everywhere. So every single thing we were told was a lie. We were told that the spike protein post-vaccine just dissolves. After the immune response, it just goes away. And you either, it comes out in your stool fragments or in your pee, in your urine. Turns out it's a lie. The spike protein persists for months, of years now we have data, for years. What does that mean to you? That means that if you took the shot, you have your cells producing spike protein, not just theoretically, we know now bona fide, it produces spike for the rest of your life. And the problem you have then is those who've taken the shot, what are the clinical implications of this? Is there long-term damage? Where we have many people, we all know people, I know people, you know people, who took the vaccine have had side effects. Some have died. So we know the vaccine is a problem. You have everybody running around now who got a shot with spike in them. That's a problem. And now people are becoming very critical in their thinking and their reading and their understanding, and now they're scared. They just want the vaccine content to spike out of them. But it's not that simple, because unless the people who made the vaccine and invented the mRNA went back to the lab and came back to us and say, hey, look, we realized we did a bad thing here. Look, we just formed this antidote. So take this now, and it will reverse the effects of this vaccine, because the vaccine doesn't work. So people have something in them that is not working. It does not confer proper immunity, what we call sterilizing immunity. It doesn't stop infection. It doesn't stop transmission. But not only that it has failed to work, it's causing you harm. So that's the key. It's not even that it's working, a little bit working, but not harmful. So you say, you know what? I took this. It's giving me a little bit of something. Let me just, I made that decision. Next time I'll think more carefully. It's not that. It does not work. And on top of that, it's harmful.
Doctor,
so people want it out of that.
Yeah, the key word you used was a lie. You spoke about lies. So did Robert Kennedy Jr. Here's his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This, to me, is complementing exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know how someone who has secret trips to the CIA and having conversations with them over the last several years prior to his retirement gets away literally with murder and thinks it's okay, and why certain social media now may try to lock me or block me from expressing these points of view, not to mention yours, means that we must be doing something right, because we're reaching out further. We're talking with Dr. Paul Alexander, an epidemiologist who's with the Wellness Company. He's also a crusader. He's also a patriot. He's also a strong Trump supporter who's been behind the scenes watching Trump during the deep state attack against him. We're going to get more into that side of the issue later. The pitch today, folks, www.twc.health. Go there, get your wellness kit. And please subscribe. They have a membership group that you can be part of. And as Dr. Alexander said, you'll end up talking to a doctor and getting the advice you need. You know what I think in plain language for a guy like me, doctor, correct me if I'm wrong, please. The only thing you're doing is trying to build up the fortification, the army, the soldiers in your bloodstream that fight off COVID and these vast array of viruses. It's not that you're coming out with a specific cure for COVID. You're coming out for a way for the body to stay well through a preemptive strike, if you will, by building up this strength that the body has naturally. You're trying to help accelerate natural strength of the body to fight off these viruses. Yes or no?
Yes. And
Oh,
when you go back to the wellness company, absolutely yes. You would see that some of the products that they make available supports the immune system, immune support, immune boost, etc. So you're hitting the nail on the head. This is really about healthier living. This is the point. The point is that most of us, when we go to the doctor, if a doctor was really honest, because they know the physiology and the anatomy, they should really sit you down and say, look, 95% of why you came to see me today is you have a little stress in your life, problems in living, whatever you're dealing with, causing little emotional issues too, psychological, you stress, and it manifests in physical symptom. You need to take a little vacation. Just take a little week. Take a little vacation for yourself, downtime. You will see most of your medical conditions disappear, number one. Number two, you don't need our medical system to medicalize you and have you on multiple drugs. You could make healthier decisions, be more informed, control your body weight, take the necessary supplements that you may not be getting in your food, things like that. Control the sugar in the food, the cholesterol, etc. Get active. Understand the issue of metabolic syndrome that's our major plague in the modern society. Understand those things. That's where a company like the wellness company is coming around. It's telling you, don't just be a passive person strolling along that you have a cough or you have a little pain in your back, you rush to the doctor who's going to medicalize you and put you on what we call polydrugs, 10 different drugs. No, stop. Take control of your health and decision making. Recognize you are the one making the poor decisions and start becoming informed. Read, understand. The wellness company has a wealth of information, etc. Try the telehealth service because it offers a second opinion. Your doctor may be telling you, oh my God, you need a surgery. You need to go to this special. You may tap into the wellness company online physicians, on telehealth physicians on the line.
and how do we reach them again?
Well, the first step is you have to become a member of the wellness company. And with that membership, the annual membership, it provides you the telephone one. It's like a 1-800 number, direct access. So when you call, you would get to speak to a medical practitioner, a doctor, and you can get the advice and the help and the guidance that you need. And it's just a matter of the membership. And
Well, telemedicine is here today, so it shouldn't be a strange concept for folks to get online and
well, it's virtual care. You're getting care. I mean, we live a life today of a virtual world. So you can get virtual care, you get savings on any supplements that you want to get, etc. And more even specialized telehealth services. So I don't think to me, it's a win-win situation because for nominal membership fee, basic membership, and the even more higher tiered memberships, you could get access to clinicians. You could get access to a host of information. You could get access to nutraceuticals. I believe there are even nutraceuticals that come part of the membership. So you don't even pay for them extra. Situations like that. And you could buy a monthly membership, you could buy an annual membership. And if you don't even want to become a member, you could just go to the wellness company site and just find things that you think that you want within your day-to-day living, supplements, information, etc., and access it. And some of it, a large portion of it is accessible for free even. So I think that at this point, the wellness company offers is a unique, how should I say, effort, a unique step to transform medical practice so that you're kind of getting a one-stop service. And I can tell you that they're right now in the midst of expanding what is available to persons who partake in the wellness company, such as access to specialists, So it's not just you go to a GP and you want to get a second opinion from another doctor, that you can get access to a specialist, a heart specialist, etc. So that is being worked on right now as we speak. I know also that they're coming up with trying to envision setting up more one-stop shops that you can do all of your medical testing, everything as part of the wellness company model. So yeah,
In the
I
we
think
the bad news, doctor, is we've run out of time, but I would love to have you back. I think we agreed we're going to be talking in the weeks ahead on more political issues and a lot of the social political issues, both within the United States and around the world, that I know you just came back from Israel, and we have a lot we'd like to hear from you about that. I had interviewed an Israeli Defense Forces officer a few weeks ago who talked about the crisis over there, and we can dovetail those two stories together. But folks, today we've been talking with Dr. Paul Elias Alexander, an epidemiologist who's more than an epidemiologist. He's put himself out there to help protect the human condition worldwide. And he's been an outspoken advocate for wellness and the wellness company here in the United States. www.twc.health. Go there. You'll find out all the contact information and subscription information you need. Doctor, any final comments before we close?
well, first of all, again, I'd like to thank you so much for allowing me on your show. I'd like to even reach out to your own supporters and say, Gene, I like his format, I like his platform. And I mean, you're probably listening because you know of Gene, have been following Gene before even myself. You should find ways to support this platform, his platform, whichever ways exist, because I think his platform is it's one of those few that are standing up against the tyranny of wokeness and cancellation. Remember, people like me and McCullough and stuff, when we came out 4 years ago, in our anti-stance against the lockdowns, Dr. Osqui, myself, against the school closures, against the vaccines even, especially in children, we were cancelled, and none of the mainstream legacy media would have us on, and eventually Fox began to bring us on, and then the other I went on to Newsmax and all these people, but in many times it was a fight, and you even a little control as to how far you can go in your speech. I think Gene offers one of those platforms that is fully, unedited, where it's open, transparent, explicitness, and you could just be free to express to what you're trying to say and share. I think at the end of the day, we live in a world now where there's a lot of malfeasance around us, malevolence. And my point of view is this. I am a political person too. I'm an academic scientist, but I'm a medical person, but I'm a political. I am seeing this as pure as I can. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican or conservative, whatever you want to call yourself, one nothing. You could be a libertarian, you could have no affiliation, you could identify with nothing. As long as you love the United States, the country, as long as you love the borders of this country, as long as you love the Constitution, you respect the anthem and will stand for it, that you respect the Constitution, you respect law and order, you understand the role of the police in the society, you defend them, you defend the role of the military, and you understand these things. You understand the need for religion and the individuality to defend your own religion, and you respect my right to practice my own religion. And again, I'm not talking about anything that's militant. I'm not talking about anything that's extreme. And I'm talking about any ideologies that cause harms to other people. I'm talking about mainstream normal stuff, adaptive stuff that could bring growth and benefit. As long as you are in that box, I don't care what party you belong to. I will support you and even vote for you. Problem is, I'm struggling to find a Democrat like that. I'm struggling to even find a proper Republican like that. I know they exist. I know they do. And maybe coming out in the future going to be some good young people who are going to stand up and defend the country, defend the Constitution, defend law and order, defend good governance, and make sure that America remains the last beacon of hope.
Dr. Paul Alexander, a man who uses freedom, liberty, wellness, mental and physical, all in the same sentence. Thank you for joining us here today on another episode of the Grassroots Truthcast with our guest, Dr. Paul Elias Alexander. And thank you for joining us as well for another episode. We look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thanks again for joining us on the Grassroots Truthcast. Take care now.
Thanks for joining us for Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. Be sure to like and subscribe, and God bless America.